Ugh. Open world? That's been done to death!
24 hours later.
When's the sequel coming out, Nintendo? I have to know! Oh, well, it's a pretty big game. It takes a while to make something like this, but while you're waiting for the sequel, here's a remake of Link's Awakening. No! I need a sequel! Not this old garbage that I liked all the way up until Breath of the Wild came out and can no longer appreciate because my expectations have been raised. Well, we don't have a sequel yet, but here's a prequel. What is the sequel? Well, we're kinda waiting for Zelda's 35th anniversary to release it. Ugh, forget it. I'm gonna go yell at Bethesda about how they haven't released Skyrim 6 yet. The series is called The Elder Scrolls. Well, I guess I'd better get to work. Make it even better this time!
Well, that's about where the Zelda fanbase is at right now. One pre-rendered trailer. That's all we've got. But that doesn't mean we can't make the first game any better, so let's upgrade The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild in preparation for its sequel.
Many people complained about the boss fights in this game, said they were boring, too easy. Well, I honestly think they were pretty good. Well, you know what didn't have good variety? The normal enemies. It's like eating the same 3 meals every day. As you progress through the week, maybe breakfast will get tougher to choke down, and lunch will start throwing things at you, and dinner will start breathing fire, but in the end, it's really the same meal each time.
Okay, bad analogy, but my point stands. At the end of the day, you're only really fighting bokoblins, lizalfos, and moblins. Those are the main meals, and any side dishes, other enemies, also have a similar problem of behaving the exact same. At the very least, you'd think they could have mixed up the attack patterns of the ice keys versus the fire keys or something.
The reason these are the 3 main enemies is probably because they can carry weapons, allowing Link to resupply himself, but that makes them get kinda old.
Conspiracy theory for you. The craftsmen in Hyrule purposely make them so bad that people constantly have to buy more. Well, it's either that or the monsters make these flimsy swords.
They might be willing to use more than 3 types of monsters in all the bases if it wasn't for this mechanic. All in all, there are only really 12 classes of enemies in Breath of the Wild, which is minuscule compared to other games in the series. Thankfully, I have a solution, even if Nintendo doesn't want to come up with a whole bunch of new enemy types. The main places things feel repetitive is in the bases. They all have similar layouts and kinds of enemies. I think a faction system could work really well. In the original game, all the monsters worked together because they were controlled by malice, but now there's no reason to have them working together. What if each base is devoted to a singular type of monster, with a hierarchy? For example, if it was a bokoblin base, it could have red and blue bokoblins at the bottom, gray in the middle, and perhaps a white one at the top, giving the orders. They all need more varied attacks, and it would be really cool if they would work together to pull off special moves, or if some would run and grab a bomb barrel when they saw Link. Really fleshing out their moveset and personality would be an excellent way to fix this seeming lack of variety. Also, each base leader could have a particular personality that affects what they tell their troops to do. Some will be scared and tell the underlings to be cautious, while others will be aggressive and tell their soldiers to have no fear. All of this would add up to making every combat encounter, every base defeat, feel unique and worth it.
Also, if we're gonna have monster factions in here, it would be great if you could randomly come across different types of monsters fighting each other for control of the land or a piece of food or whatever it is monsters fight about. I'm sure they'll find something.
Many open world games have a similar problem, which is the side quests. Many fall into the easy but boring structure of fetch quests. Oh, you need a horse? Let me get one of those for you. Oh, you're a child and want dangerous and deadly weapons? Let me get those for you.
That's a real quest in Breath of the Wild.
Now, Breath of the Wild does knock it out of the park with some of their side quests. One that stands out is From the Ground Up, where you must help someone build and populate a town. While partially a fetch quest to get building materials, it also requires you to look out for unhappy characters who might want to move away to another place, and you get to see direct feedback of your actions as new buildings rise and shops open.
There actually is a lot of variety in the side quests, from rounding up cuckoos to solving problems to unlock shrines to trying to get into a secret club. There's clearly a lot of creativity on display, but so many others are simply go here, get some fruit. Go there, take a picture. There are interesting rewards like special armor sometimes, but many of the quests simply aren't that fun to complete.
It seems that no matter what the quest's end goal is, from building a town to cooking salmon manure, Moonere, Mooney? Forget it, no one's ever gonna figure out how to pronounce that right. It seems that no matter what the quest's end goal is, it's still just a fetch quest.
There are a ton of side quests here, and while some may have interesting rewards, they aren't fun or fulfilling in themselves. I hope that in the next game, they'll trim the fat and shoot for fewer but higher quality side quests.
In a similar vein, shrines were one of my favorite parts of the game. I love a good puzzle game, so when you have something with a bunch of unique mechanics like Breath of the Wild, puzzle potential is infinite, and it shows. But it seems like toward the end they were running out of ideas, and in order to meet their quota of 120 shrines, threw in a mini-boss and called it a day. Now this wouldn't be a problem if the mini-boss wasn't the exact same every time.
It's just a kind of guardian, and you can easily beat it with a couple of parries and flurry rushes, although that's true of just about every enemy in the game, and the fight feels the same each time. Long story short, shrines or something similar will probably appear in the next game, and I hope that they stick to interesting puzzles this time around, because fighting the same mini-boss 30 times doesn't do much for me.
And yeah, you get a reward after it. How thoughtful. What's that? Another electric sword? Let me add that to the 543 I already have.
When the game first came out, many people were disappointed by the lack of traditional dungeons, which the series is known for. You know, go through some rooms, defeat some enemies, solve a puzzle, beat a boss, and get a special item.
Well, the closest Breath of the Wild has to that is the Divine Beasts. Arduous process to get in?
Check.
Non-linear puzzle solving?
Check.
Random enemies throughout?
Check.
Boss at the end?
Check.
Heart container after beating the boss?
Check.
Cool new item or power-up?
Yeah.
So instead of cool new items after the upgrade, we got Daruk's Protection, a shield upgrade, Urbosa's Fury, a cool but rather overpowered attack that honestly can make the game kinda boring, Mipha's Grace if for some reason you forget to eat food, and Rivali's Gale if you're too lazy to climb a hill before using your paraglider. Out of these, Rivali's Gale is probably the best, because with it, you can summon wind, which can actually be used to interact with the game world, but it's still not very interesting. You can go anywhere you want in Hyrule with just a single stamina bar and some food to keep you warm. This is the perfect time to add some classic Legend of Zelda items, especially the hookshot. For whatever reason, I'm addicted to good grappling hook mechanics, and if they nail the hookshot, it would be a lot more fun than use Rivali's Gale and hold forward.
But what about some other items? This game takes place at the end of every Zelda timeline, so that means we can put in items from any other Zelda game.
Imagine using the Wind Waker to change the wind direction, or finding masks from Majora's Mask. Harkening back to my discussion of side quests earlier, what if them were locked behind certain items? If there's a side quest to wrestle a Goron, well, you can't exactly do that without being one yourself. Bring in the Goron mask. And speaking of masks, I did think they kinda wasted the monster masks sold by Kilton. There isn't much use, and this is exactly the kind of thing I want to see in the sequel. A stealth mission to infiltrate the monster camp in disguise? That sounds absolutely awesome.
I'm getting sidetracked. Let's talk about the special items which I think would work the best.
I already discussed briefly how much I love the hookshot in this game. Whether it shoots you from point to point or allows you to swing from it like a more traditional grappling hook, I'd love for this to be in here. I can't stop thinking about the grapple from World's Drift and how cool that would be in Breath of the Wild 2. There are a bunch of very heavy things in Breath of the Wild. Boulders, treasure chests. Heck, what if you could pick up frozen enemies and throw them? This would also be a great way to block off certain parts of the map, like with a boulder, until Link was finally able to lift it out of the way. Let's talk masks. Obviously, the transformation masks are some of the most in-depth ones, with Deku, Goron, and Zora masks turning you into those races. This would give Link a unique moveset but lock him out of other abilities, like if you're a Goron, you can't use your sword, and if you're a Zora, your attack power decreases. The bunny hood, obviously, is a fun one, and the captain's mask would also be great. given the prevalence of stall creatures in Breath of the Wild. Breaking the laws of time and physics for a simple environmental effect, are we, Link? Alrighty then. We can control wind direction with this, perhaps making it easier to approach a certain camp. Changing from day to night would also have interesting ramifications, like making a stealth approach easier. It would be especially awesome if it could be done in real time, with none of that pesky loading screen business. Seeing monsters react to the immediate time change would be awesome, and allow for some cool shenanigans. I mean, this wouldn't be a game-changing item, but it is kinda weird that I have to catch fish with my hands. It would make a lot more sense if Link had a fishing rod, and if they design it well, it could be another fun minigame. Water movement was a place this game was sorely lacking. Link's a sitting duck in the water because he can't attack, and if he runs out of stamina, he drowns. Flippers could allow him to move faster on the water's surface, and perhaps also allow for some attacking. Iron boots would allow him to walk underwater. But what would underwater look like?
Ooh, what'd you think of that silky smooth transition into the next segment? Pretty great. Underwater. Right. What would it look like? How about this?
I'm willing to bet Nintendo wanted some sort of underwater segment early on, because if you glitch underwater, you can see this. Beautiful coral, fish swimming around, although there's no camera filter to change colors or warp the view. They must have scrapped their initial plan to have more water stuff. I'd love it if in the next game we got some water temples or underwater enemies.
Octoroks don't count.
Gerudo really could have benefited by having part of it flooded, forcing Link to swim different places. The puzzles in this game are already incredibly designed, and having water to allow a third dimension of movement would open up exciting new possibilities. Also, the iron boots and flippers, like I was talking about, would be great items in this scenario. Just being able to explore the bottom of lakes and the ocean floor would be pretty great. In a game that absolutely nailed exploration, a whole new area to explore would be the easiest way to shake things up for the sequel. Yeah, it's an open world game. Those are traditionally single player experiences. A second player should absolutely not be equal to the first player.
I'm thinking along the lines of Luma in Mario Galaxy. I mean, not that useless, but Nintendo actually gave me an idea in their amiibo, Wolf Link.
In case you didn't know, you can summon a companion in Breath of the Wild with a Wolf Link amiibo. They'll attack enemies, lead you to places, and eat your food. This would have been the perfect way to implement a multiplayer mode in here. Of course, the main problem is that Breath of the Wild can't function with just one Joy-Con, so any player would need another controller, but I'd still like to see it. Give a Joy-Con to player 2 and they can run around within a certain radius of Link, attack monsters, and bring them items. It wouldn't be a huge feature, but it's a way to adventure together. The controller would definitely be the major issue because every local multiplayer game on the Switch needs to support single Joy-Con play.
To a certain extent, I expect there to be multiplayer in the sequel. Based on the trailer, it looks like Zelda's going to be tagging along with Link quite a bit, or vice versa. So if there are two characters, it makes sense to support two players.
I even have an idea on how this one could work with just two Joy-Cons. When in single player, Link has access to his full moveset, but when player 2 joins as Zelda, she takes some of his abilities away, specifically the runes and the Sheikah Slate. Maybe she can have some magic attacks to go along with it. Two-player combat would be pretty cool, and this would be the first time Zelda is playable in a mainline Legend of Zelda title. I stress the Zelda for a reason.
I mentioned amiibo when talking about Wolf Link, so let's go a bit more in depth on that front. I've been dying to make a joke about my Breath of the Wild amiibo. I have every single one, and they fit in the palm of my hand. That's right, amiibo cards. You can get a full set for like 15 bucks on eBay. Very cost effective, although they don't look as good on a shelf.
I'm not here to talk about the price of amiibo, I want to talk about what they give you in the game. I really want all the exclusive armor you get from amiibo, but I almost always end up with junk that I have no use for. Imagine if I had paid full price for these. I would be super annoyed. As it is, I'm just kinda frustrated. Why must it rely on RNG? I haven't gotten a single exclusive item yet. Instead of having every drop be by random chance, I think there should be a threshold, like it will definitely appear if you try 10 times. But there's something a lot more interesting, I think. What if the likelihood of you getting a rare item increased when you use the amiibo in a particular place? Like, if I use Ocarina of Time Link in the Temple of Time, I'm guaranteed to get the Cap of Time. Or if I use Wind Waker Link at Mount Daphne's, I'll get the Seabreeze Boomerang.
Giving the players control of their amiibo drops while referencing all of the other Zelda games seems like the perfect solution. It encourages experimentation and research into what the other Zelda games had in them. I think this is the solution for amiibo.
There's a lot wrong with the combat in Breath of the Wild. That's not to say it's bad. It actually has one of the most interesting and in-depth combat systems out of any game I've played recently, blowing stuff like Horizon Zero Dawn out of the water. But there are some glaring issues that need to be fixed, and I'll also be suggesting some tweaks and adjustments that I think would improve things.
First, we gotta talk about Flurry Rush. You know, where Link slows down time? How? How does he do that? It doesn't make sense.
Flurry Rush is a cool concept, but it ends up taking over the entire combat system. The thing about open world, player choice, sandbox type of games is that if there's ever an option that outshines every other one, players will gravitate toward it and the novelty and uniqueness of other abilities are largely ignored. Given the opportunities, players will optimize the fun out of a game. Now there's a great quote that I wasn't able to trace back to anyone in all my 20 seconds of trying. In just about any fight that I'm worried I can't win easily, I simply resort to my two best tools, long-range combat and Flurry Rush. I don't like to experiment because it always feels like it backfires. I've seen crazy clips of people taking out an entire bokoblin camp with a bomb, octoballoon, and a korok leaf, but stuff like that never seems to work out. It's extremely difficult to pull off and not worth the reward it provides.
Or maybe they're super easy to pull off and I'm just bad. You let me know, I won't exactly be surprised either way.
While I wish they were able to balance creative options a bit better with other options, the basic combat system is still really good. 3 fundamentally different types of weapons, all of which can have elemental effects to boost variety, a great parry system, although it is a bit too easy to pull off, and decent enemy variety. I already talked about how to improve that though, so I won't take up any more of your time. Then you have long-range combat, runes which provide you with other abilities and specialty weapons like the Meteor Rod. The basic combat isn't gonna get stale, so although any additions they decide to throw our way will be welcome in the sequel, I'm going to focus more on tweaks and specific stuff. So, Flurry Rush, way too overpowered. One easily timed dodge for a free 200 damage with an average weapon? No. I like the concept, but it's absolutely busted, so let's tone it down a bit. First, the dodge window should be a lot harder to pull off, probably about half of what it is right now. Still enough to do consistently, but a lot more risky. But what if there were alternative actions when getting a perfect dodge? So let's give Link 3 more things he could do after one of his sick backflips. Sticking with the theme of slowing down time, how about 5 seconds of frozen time, where all the enemies in the immediate area are very slow. The player can use this time to set up a trap, or maybe he can keep it going by dodging slowed down enemies. This should, of course, use stamina. The third option would be critical hit. Instead of a bunch of fast attacks in slow time, Link leaps forward and delivers a single supercharged blow. This would take less stamina than Flurry Rush and deal less overall damage. However, it would stun the enemy, leaving it open for more attacks.
And the fourth option would be... Dang it, I didn't think ahead this far. Just take your favorite ability from Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity and pretend that's what I put in here. But the most important addition to the combat system is a canon explanation as to why Link can slow down time.
Whew, I think that's about it. I think this is the longest non-Let's Play or reaction video that I've ever made. Quite the production. So I'd like to ask you, if you made it this far, do me a favor and subscribe. It's entirely your choice, of course. I can't control what you're doing there on your computer.
Or can I?
No, I actually can't. If you don't want to subscribe just yet, you can also just like and comment to show your support. That'll help promote my video in the YouTube algorithm. Now, let's return to the Zelda fan and his conversation with Nintendo, because I need to end this video with a joke. Otherwise, you guys won't watch to the end, and I won't get that sweet, sweet watch time.
Okay, we're finally done. Here's your Breath of the Wild sequel. Ugh, took you long enough. Give it here, let me play it. Sure, give me $60.
24 hours later.
This game sucks! The world is only twice as big, there's only 4 times as much content, and the Korok seed collecting is gone. That was my favorite part. Sorry, man, a lot of people just weren't fans of Korok seeds. I mean, if you really hate the game, you can probably get a refund or sell it to GameStop or something. No! When's Breath of the Wild 3 coming out, Nintendo? I need to know! Oh my god.